Not all triggers are made the same. Most of them have these neoprene rubber seals and things, and they only last a few moments before they stop working. What we did was in the plunger part here, instead of having that type of rubber, we put in Viton. This is green stuff. Also in the tip behind the nozzle there's also Viton there as well. So that's why a good trigger makes it a lot easier. Want to make sure the stripper is at room temperature, and then don't take it straight out of the garden shed if it's really, really cold in the winter. Make sure it just warms up a little bit first. Upside down, give it a good shake. We don't have to add anything to it. A lot of times people ask us if you have to thin it down or anything. No, you don't. You just use it straight out of the can. Read the instructions if you get a chance. It's always good. Off with the lid. Tap. These are really, really great, these. I just love these. And check that it's in the off position. That way it doesn't start flowing before you want it to. Into the hole. And off she goes. Now, stand it upwards again. Don't leave it sort of on the bench like this, because eventually the stripper may well have a good go at the seals on there, and so if you've got it like that, it's not going to leak. Flusher. If you happen to have 2 taps, that's cool, because the taps are easier to use than a funnel. But if you do have to use a funnel, then that can also be pretty straightforward. There's some debris in that funnel. If I use it now, I'm going to put that debris into the bottle, and that's a real good way of blocking up the triggers later. I'm just going to give that a quick clean funnel. So that's a little trick to be learning. And what normally we do when we use a funnel is we open it up and we tend to want to pour it that way, but all that does is cause a huge mess. So you actually turn it around and you do it that way. If the funnel's not got air going in, you've got to make sure you lift it up a little bit. You got the trigger, bottle, in she goes, clunk. And it looks like we've made the hose, the little tube, too long. So, what do? Well, what you actually do is you just press it a little bit, and then she goes, and it goes down and then goes right to the bottom. And you might say, well, why don't you just cut them a bit shorter? Well, the reason we do this is we want to get as much liquid out as we spray, so you haven't always got this little bit sitting at the bottom. I'm pretty much getting everything, and I'm not running out of liquid 2/3 through the bottle. If I find that it's not going the right way, you just twist it and put it back in until it is. So it's really easy to do. So we're now ready to spray some on. When I go to spray, it may not even spray at all, because there's a number of things that can get in the way. One is, where's the nozzle up to? Is it fully tightened up? If it is, it's not going to spray, so open it up a little bit. When it's fully clockwise wound up, it's going to be in off position. So there it is there. Now we give it a bit of a spray, and it's really not spraying. So what we do is we give it a little tweak, the bottle. Oh, look at that. And instantly it starts spraying. So what we did there was give the bottle a little tweak. It helped force the liquid up the pipe, and there we go. Now, when you spray, if you're happy with the pattern, which I was there, away you go. But what sometimes people do is they won't move their hand as they pull the trigger. They'll just go like that, and you get these dry patches, wet patches, and then that'll actually run. What you want to do is move your hand at the same time. And it's that easy. Just get into that habit of spraying like that and you'll be fine. Now, it's better to do 2 or 3 light coats than it is to do one big heavy coat. So if a person really piles it on, it will run because there's just too much weight there. If you put it on lighter, it'll start absorbing into the paint and varnish, whatever which is what you want, and then it gets quite sticky and allows for the next application to go on. Another thing that people sometimes do is they press the trigger too hard. They'll go, and again what happens is it goes on too heavy, but also it breaks the trigger. The trigger's not going to last as long as it should because you're putting too much compression in the actual trigger. You don't want to do that. And also it'll vaporize more. You get more atomization. You don't want that. It's best to, if you do it lightly, moving your hand as you go, it's ideal. So when I'm finished spraying and I want to put my bottle down, where do I put it? Well, a ladder's really good. Make sure what you put it onto is not like a mantelpiece varnished or something like that, because you might have a little bit of stripper sitting underneath it and it got there somehow, and then boof, down it goes, and then you've now stripping the mantelpiece as well. If something drips down onto the varnish floor, then again it's going to strip that as well. So just be mindful of where you put it. So just a common sense trick, but you don't want to learn the hard way. Another thing is if this is next to the window and the sun's streaming in straight onto it, what's going to happen is the liquid's going to warm up a little bit, and you're going to get liquid forced up like I did before when I was squeezing it, but it's going to get liquid forced up and you're going to get drips come down. So what you do is you make sure it's in the shade, and also be mindful of where it's going to go. Another question we get often is how much do I strip at a time? So how big an area do I put it on? The thing is it's not about how much surface you're putting it on, it's about how much can you work on at a time. So you've got the side of a weatherboard house, you don't go and spray the whole side of the house because you can't work on that much at a time. But you work out on some sample pits as you start how much you want to do. If you're doing a whole car, you wouldn't spray a whole car at the start because you've got all the scraping and scrubbing and all those other parts of the system to do. Now, if you're spraying and it's in the middle of winter and you didn't bring the canner stripper in to get sort of warmed up and it's cold as, then the stripper is going to look perfectly all right, but it definitely doesn't spray fine. So what we do is warm the stripper up. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So we loosen off the bottle, sit it into something, get some warm water. And you need to understand this whole thing of warm water. If you use it straight out of the hot tap, which I think is about 50 degrees Celsius, it's going to boil it, and you can actually have it spurt out the top. So do not do that. You actually mix the hot and the cold tap together. Really simple, it's not difficult. You just turn both on, and when they're running right, there you go. Within 2 or 3 minutes, it's all good to go. If you know you're going to be stripping today, bring the can in so it takes on the temperature of the room. It's very quick to change temperature, so that will do that. But if you forgot, it's a quick fix. When it comes to storage, at the end of each day, take the liquid back into the tin, empty the trigger back into the tin, get a little bit of your flusher, put that into the bottle, give it a few squeezes through, cleans the mechanisms all out, not hard at all. So you always clean your brushes at the end of the day, all those sort of things, so clean your spray gun as well. Triggers are really, really easy to use. If you know how to deal with things beforehand, it makes it so much easier.
Cooper's, the stripper that gets it off every time.